According to the ancient Greek historian Herodotus, when an Egyptian family's cat died, they shaved their eyebrows off as a mark of respect. Just gone. No more eyebrows. The cat is dead, therefore the eyebrows must go. This seemed completely normal to everyone involved. We should probably figure out why. So, let's do that. The ancient Egyptians created the world's first known pet cemetery, found at Berenice, an ancient Red Sea port city. Dating back nearly 2,000 years, mostly cats, wearing iron and beaded collars, buried carefully, individually, not mummified for gods, not sacrificed for rituals, just buried, like pets, like members of the household, because that is what they were. We also found cat and kitten burials in Egypt dating as far back as 3,800 BC. For context, the Great Pyramid of Giza wasn't built until roughly 2560 BC. Egyptians were burying cats with care for over 1,200 years before they even started on the pyramids. Priority management. Interesting choices. But here we are. Right. So, why cats specifically? The answer, according to a 2018 exhibition on the importance of cats in ancient Egypt held at the Smithsonian National Museum of Asian Art, is that cats were seen as possessing a duality of desirable temperaments. On one hand, protective, loyal, nurturing. On the other, pugnacious, independent, and fierce. Sometimes within the same 3 seconds. To the ancient Egyptians, this made them seem like special creatures worthy of particular attention. You can see the logic, honestly. It's the same logic that makes the internet incapable of ignoring them 5,000 years later. Something is wrong with all of us, and it started in Egypt. The goddess Sekhmet was depicted with the head of a lion on the body of a woman. Protective, but the kind of protective that also involves being the goddess of war, pestilence, and the scorching desert wind. She governed dawn and dusk, the edges of things, the moments when the world could go either way. Then there was Bastet, also often represented as a lion or a cat. The ancient Egyptians believed that cats were sacred to her. They built temples. They kept sacred cats. When those cats died, they were mummified and buried with ritual. The whole operation, 2 cat-adjacent goddesses, 2 overlapping divine roles. Simultaneously protective and terrifying. Domestic and feral, which, again, is just a cat. The Egyptians built their entire theology around a creature that will ignore you for 3 days and then sit directly on your face at 3 a.m. The Great Sphinx of Giza is 240 feet long. It has the face of a man and the body of a lion. It is, by any definition, part cat, and it is arguably the most famous monument in human history. Historians aren't exactly sure why the Egyptians built the Sphinx. Nobody left a note. It simply exists. 240 feet of part human, part cat, staring at the horizon from 4,500 years ago. The Egyptians will do that sometimes, just build something enormous and then not explain it. But the cat body means something. All those feline-form statues represent something the Egyptians genuinely believed. That divinity, at its most powerful and most protective, looks a bit like a cat. That's the cosmology, God-shaped felines protecting the world. Let's not forget the practical dimension. Cats were also just very useful. They hunted mice. They hunted snakes. They protected grain stores. Egypt was an agricultural civilization built around grain storage along the Nile, and the grain was constantly under threat from rodents. Cats were not just spiritual beings. They were, functionally, a pest control service that happened to also look extremely divine while doing their job. The ancient Egyptians named their children after cats. Girls were sometimes given the nickname Mit, meaning cat, according to University College London. You watched mice being dispatched with minimal effort and thought, yes, I want my daughter to have this energy. Completely reasonable. Right. So, here is where it gets complicated. Much research has suggested that the Egyptians' relationship with cats wasn't always the loving, eyebrow-shaving devotion we've just discussed. Alongside the pet cemeteries and the sacred temple cats, there was also this, an entire industry dedicated to breeding millions of kittens to be killed and mummified so that people, could purchase them and offer them to the gods as votive sacrifices. It ran roughly from 700 BC to AD 300. 1,000 years, farms dedicated entirely to selling cats for sacrifice. According to Richard Johnston, a professor of materials research at Swansea University, it was fairly industrial. You had farms dedicated to selling cats, not a ceremony, a supply chain, for cats, for gods. In a study published in Scientific Reports, researchers carried out X-ray micro-CT scanning on a mummified cat. The scan revealed something the wrappings had hidden. The creature inside was far smaller than expected. About 50% of the mummy's apparent size was just wrapping. The real animal inside was tiny. It was a very young cat, Johnston said. When we saw it up on the screen, we realized it was young when it died. Less than 5 months old, when its neck was deliberately broken. It was a bit of a shock, Johnston said. These animals were offered as a means to appease or seek help from deities, according to Marianne Pulse-Wegner, associate professor of Egyptian archaeology at the University of Toronto. They were reared for that specific purpose. And here is the thing that makes ancient Egypt genuinely strange to sit with. Both of these things are true at the same time. The pet cemetery with iron-collared cats individually buried, clearly mourned, and the breeding farms producing kittens for ritual killing. A painting from the tomb of Ipuy, dating to around 1295 to 1213 BC, shows a cat sitting under a chair. Not a sacred cat, not a temple cat, just a house cat, under a chair, in a tomb painting, preserved for 3,000 years, because someone thought that was worth painting. It seems there's a fine line between veneration and infatuation, the researchers concluded. One could argue the line had disappeared entirely somewhere around the 2nd century BC, and nobody told the Egyptians. It is worth noting at some point in this discussion that we have no evidence that cats had any opinion whatsoever about any of this. The cats did not ask to be sacred. They did not ask to be the face of 2 separate goddesses. They did not ask to be mummified by the million or buried in iron collars or featured in tomb paintings or have the world's most famous monument given their body shape. They were just cats, doing cat things, killing mice, sitting under chairs, not making eye contact. The Egyptians imposed all of this meaning onto them. The duality, the divinity, the sacred ferocity. The cats simply were. And the Egyptians built an entire civilization of meaning around that, which is honestly still what we do. We just call it making the cat do the funny walk for the video. Same impulse, different delivery mechanism. The ancient Egyptians' obsession with cats survived them. When the internet was invented, cats immediately colonized it. The world's first pet cemetery was for cats. The world's first pet videos were for cats. Literally every era of human civilization has produced cat content. We have not progressed. We have simply upgraded the format. The question of why the ancient Egyptians were obsessed with cats has a simple answer, and the answer is the same reason you have 17 cat videos saved on your phone right now. The same reason the Great Sphinx has a lion's body. The same reason someone painted their cat under a chair in their tomb 3,000 years ago. They are cats. Something about them just works on us. It has always worked on us. The ancient Egyptians just had the honesty to build temples about it. That's this episode of Toon of Time. Drop a comment, subscribe. For latest discoveries, try not to shave your eyebrows on our behalf.